The Board of Education, December 19th, 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Barr.
Here.
Blakely.
Here.
Dremel.
Here.
Dryden. Gaspar.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Lowe.
Present.
All right, Mr. Gaspar, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Dr. Hitchens, are there any items to be removed from or added to the agenda tonight?
They're not.
Awesome, and we're going to jump right into celebrations because we have lots to celebrate tonight. First, I would like to invite Mark Montgomery, Kate Hellman, and Bridget Schmidt and the RMS Cross Country Boys and Girls teams.
Woo!
Oh, you don't get cheaters. They light up the front.
Come up this way too.
Right here, come over here, we'll move.
So we're very excited to share with you and the community just our girls and boys teams accomplishments this year. The kids always do such a really, really nice job, but again this year, they went on to have an amazing, successful season. The girls team was undefeated in conference and ended up winning the conference title. The boys also ended up winning their conference title as well and went throughout the season undefeated. And then we had on to IESA sectionals and state this year. So just qualifying for that was a really, really big ordeal. This is, I believe, Year 6 of IESA, and every year since we have been a part of IESA, the teams have qualified from sectionals onto the state finals. And not only that, but both teams have always placed within the top 10 of the state. This year, some outstanding accomplishments. The girls placed in the top 10. They were 7th as a team, which is a really big feat. So if we could give them a round of applause. Season, the kids set some really, really large goals for themselves, and one of those is always to be in the top 10 to go throughout conference season and win those. And I think both teams had this as a goal, but the boys really had a special day, and they all ran definitely their personal best, and with that comes a trophy that gets to come back to Batavia. So the boys took 4th overall and came home with a state trophy. So if we could give them a round of applause. The girls' side, we'd like to recognize a certain individual. She will, I think many of you already know her because we've seen her for her accomplishments before, but this year she did something no girl in the state of Illinois has done, and that is at the state meet. She is the first middle school girl to go sub-11 in running 10:57 for 2 miles, and she set a state record this year at the state meet. So if we could give Katrina Schlenk. A repeating state champion. So not only did we just see her in track, but in cross country last year she was state champion, and she was state champion again this year. So really big things for the team. As always, we want to say thank you to you and the community for the support that you do for these kids. I know we're running around town all season long, all summer long, and you're having to stop at crosswalks and allow, hundreds of children to cross at times. But they really do appreciate it, and the support from the community, the neighbors, their teachers, the staff, and their families makes a huge difference in just showing them that if they put their mind to a goal, set it, and put in the work, that big things can happen for them. So we're just very, very proud of them. So. That's all.
And we, the boys, we put together a picture to add to your trophy case out there in the hallway. And we'd also like to, in case some of you didn't know, Kate Hillman will not be returning as a coach next season. So we'd like to take this moment to recognize her for all of her efforts. Kate Hillman has poured into building this RMS cross-country program from the ground up. She is someone who leads by example, is dedicated and determined, teaches teamwork, motivates and listens, builds character, challenges and develops, is committed to the team, and is each of our athletes' biggest fan. The program would not be what it is today without her, and while she will be greatly missed, we look forward to continuing her legacy in all the years to come. Definitely. So thank you.
Thanks for, and I said this, I don't know if you guys know, I know many of you probably saw, but the kids put together something at the end of the season I wasn't expecting. And I actually didn't tell them until afterwards that this would be my last season, but my daughter's in 2nd grade and the kids are getting bigger, and so time needs to be spent with family as well. But I started the program here. And I'm sad to leave it, but I know it was a really special moment. All the kids from all the years, I had kids from the very first team come back and just say thank you. And I mean, that's what makes Batavia so special, to work in and to be a part of, to be able to help young students reach their dreams and goals has really been special. So I'm going to miss it, but I'm definitely grateful for the time that I had spent with them. So thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next year.
Yes.
Way to go, you guys. Congratulations. Great job. Oh, is it your I don't know. No, that's okay. I just need to run over.
At least you read your own.
That's all right. It all works. All right, next I would like to invite Ann Pianessa, who's going to talk to us about the HC Storm Bridges program.
So this is a program that we started last year. So at Storm, we wanted to highlight our involvement in the community. And I'd like to thank Sue Gillerlane for doing such a great job capturing what the program is in a little video montage just to show you about it. And then we have some of our kindergarteners and first graders here to read with you. And they've really, truly been helped by these volunteers.
This past summer, a group of teachers from HC Storm School came to the Olmsted and outlined their need for somebody to just come in, spend an hour in their classroom, and help new students in kindergarten and first grade with their reading. And so it sounded like something that would be easy to do, and sure enough it was. But it was remarkable because during the year I got to know the children that were assigned to me in a first grade classroom, and to see their progress through the year was not only remarkable but very rewarding. Like I had a little wee bit to do with it all. It was good to do.
Are you actually a teacher, or were you ever?
No, I studied engineering, and I was in the Air Force for 28 years, managing research and development projects in primarily the space community. No, I'm not a teacher.
Okay, so what's it like to work with students?
Well, it's been a real pleasure to work with them. The only conflict, I guess, if you can think of it that way, is occasionally I'll be here and call them out of the classroom to do the reading exercise. At the same time, snack time is sometimes that's a little challenging. Hang in there and do the reading. Other than that, it's been a real pleasure.
The students came tonight, they had a chance to reflect a little bit this week about what they liked reading with their homestead buddies and bring a book to share with you. So Ash, will you come with me this way? Will you read right here? No, this way. There's a chair for you.
You can sit right there. Kind of tall, you got it? All right.
What's your name?
I love her.
Green heart.
Will you read it? But that's nice. What's that? That's Nolan. Very good.
So Miss Betty is the one who's coming with you? Sounds like she is Betty.
That was great. That's
You come by the microphone and share what you like about being volunteers.
What's your quarter?
Now I want to go with me too.
You all done? Watch the quarter.
You come with me today. Lovely story.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, hang on. What's going on over there? All right.
Miss Betty and Miss Cindy teach me to read. Miss Betty reads lovely stories. I like Miss Betty because she helps me read. It has helped me read big words.
Ash says it's really fun reading with Mrs. Johnson.
You know what, he doesn't have this paper because I didn't know when to tell me.
It's okay.
So we have a question, if you want to ask him. and he can-
Yeah. Okay, Paxton, what do you like about working with Mr. Johnson?
Sometimes he practices my sight words.
You can just answer them, you don't have to read them off the paper if you don't want, Paxton.
How has working with Mr. Johnson helped you?
I'm getting more words right.
Some things, Paxton. proud. What do you like about working with Mr. Johnson?
I like because when I started reading, I didn't know that much words, and then when I keep working with him, he made me like learn more stuff.
That was awesome.
So we're just happy to share that glimpse into this program we started, and a thank you to Mrs. Marshall, our reading specialist, who has helped train the volunteers as they come in, and to our first grade teachers and Mrs. O'Brien, our kindergarten teacher, who's not able to be here, for sharing their students.
Thank you so much. She's out in the hallway with her. Should we go with Leanne and we can get her? The next part of our agenda is our public comments. Was there anybody else here who wanted to speak to the board? If there is, check in with Kathy Scafidi. She can give you a peek sheet that has our board policy on it, outlining what information you need. In the meantime, I would like to invite Leanne Rodriguez to the table. Leanne Rodriguez and friends.
Yes. And friends, yes. I've filled out the sheet, yes. Hi, I'm Leanne Rodriguez. I'm from the BEA.
I'm Meg Lincoln. I'm also from the BEA, and I'm the social chair.
And I'm Kim Pearl, and I'm with the BEA, and I am the communications chair.
So just a heads up, we're starting what we're hoping will be a new tradition in Batavia, and that will be a trivia night in February 24th, Saturday. Doors will open at 7 in hopes that we can raise a whole lot of money so we can just give more to all the BHS students that are graduating and going into education.
So what's really kind of cool, we just kind of came out of the Geneva Education Association, and I've been to the last two. And it's a wonderful community kind of building event with the staff. And one of the things they do are themes at the tables. So you'll see all sorts of different themes. This year we had the Titanic swim team. So every time they got an answer correct and they like buoys and stuff like that, they would stand up and then go stroke, 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 stroke. They had Stranger Things. We had a whole bunch of science teachers 2 years ago that were the brain nerds. We had, this year, there was the Up North table. So they were all in plaid with the hats and so forth. So it's really about building, it's about getting money, especially for our kids, but it's also about kind of building that community because we're in so many different buildings, and it brings us all together, and it's a lot of fun.
And we're definitely hoping a table comes out of RJAC in some way, shape, or form.
So be thinking about your theme.
Mm-hmm. All the registration information will be given after the holidays. Just to give you a little warning, at our January 9th meeting, I believe it is, I will be distributing raffle tickets to all the BEA members with the hopes and dreams that each member will sell 10 raffle tickets, or a book of 5 for $20, with the prize being a $500 payout to the winning raffle ticket, and then also the person who sells it wins $100. So don't be surprised if someone comes knocking on your door. What else?
$10 a person.
$10 a person. Doors will open at 7. The drawings take place all night, and it's at the Moose, as I said. And you can bring your own food depending on your theme, and we're really excited about the potential.
Okay, so I only have one question, Mrs. Perlman. Are these trivia questions a little easier than those couple of classic ones?
We are not involved in these questions, nor will I be bringing a ringer team.
I don't think it's Scholastic Bowl level.
No, we're
Okay, no.
Good.
This is a little more.
How many on a team?
Yes, that's right. Is it
table.
It depends on 8 to 10.
8 to 10 at a table?
Yeah.
And the questions, so if you've ever gone to any of the trivia nights, very similar to that. You work as a team to answer the questions.
Right.
Nobody can use their cell phones. No internet access.
Right up that valley.
You usually want to play in your team where you kind of have like what we do is basketball. We have our arts people in it, so you want to have your science and math people and your miscellaneous and your sports people. It's always good to have a sports person. Music. So be thinking about. Who's on your team is an important thing.
It's very important for your team.
Yes.
Gotta have an event planner.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work. I hope to see lots of lots of youth here.
Hope to see you guys there.
February, Saturday, February 24th.
All right, well, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was me. Comment from Tina was, there was a little misconception. Some of us thought the kids were first graders. They were kindergartners reading that.
I was corrected very quickly, but that was even more amazing.
Yeah, we were. Thank you, Anne, for sharing that with us. Now I'd like to invite Amy Bean Carey to the table.
You've got it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forgot. Abby did come back in. I apologize, Amy. That's okay. Abby, though, I would like to invite you up. Then you hid behind there and I couldn't see you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. This isn't the least bit nerve-wracking for you, is it?
What?
I'm just kidding. No.
I'm Abby, and I go to Latolo Middle School. And I'm in 6th grade. And our team, which is 6-1, is having a STEM day tomorrow. And we are going to be making cardboard gingerbread houses and trying to make persuasive advertisements on our gingerbread houses. And so we would like to invite you guys, the school board members, to come and judge. And you guys will be doing the best sales pitch and the best looking. And so that is tomorrow in the LRC at RMS at 2:20 p.m. And you guys probably got an email already, but this is an invitation that you guys can get.
We like the
Do you have invites for us?
Yes, and I have invitations.
Thank you. I will be there.
Thank you. Oh, will anyone be there taking photographs for the?
Oh, is this my ballot?
I full-time jobs down so we can see their.
Thank you. This is really cool.
Your parking pass?
This is very cool.
Only if you're going to vote that way.
Personalized.
It is personalized.
It is personalized. I like it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you, Ed.
Sorry about that, Amy.
They're waving to me.
I wave.
Now I'd like to invite Amy back.
Okay. I know, I can't follow that. I'm not even gonna try. Yeah, so I would like to mention a couple things to the board. Yeah, definitely mark your calendars, February 24th. The one thing that they didn't talk about, because we're not 100% sure until the NAHS students have at them, but we also sponsored some baby bulldogs, and the National Art Honor Society has agreed to design and paint them for us. So we will hopefully be auctioning off a couple of bulldogs also. But the money is there to, excuse me, it's for the Floyd Carlson Educational Scholarship. In the past, we've always given out two $1,000 scholarships, one to somebody who's going into education and one to somebody who's going into the trades in honor of Floyd Carlson, who was a longtime graphic arts teacher. In the past couple of years, $1,000 doesn't really go very far now, so we wanted to figure out a way to really do something meaningful for the kids, because we really do want to encourage people to follow their dreams, and we want to help enable that. So we've been brainstorming and totally stealing ideas from Geneva Education Association, totally admitting that freely. But we're really excited about it, so please come out, tell your friends when you have people harass you about tickets. by them, but yeah. So that'll be cool. And then I have a couple of things at the IEA and NEA level, and then one thing here. So last weekend, I was able to go to the IPACE hearings for IEA for all the gubernatorial and attorney general candidates. So, well, I'll rephrase that. IEA, when we do hearings, we give everybody who's running a form to fill out about educational issues, so where they stand on educational issues. If they fill that out and agree to come interview with us, then we decide whether we're going to endorse or not endorse or whatever. So some of the candidates filled them out and some didn't. So we saw the people that were willing to talk to the IEA. But it was very interesting. We'll find out very soon whether they're going to endorse in the primary or not. But it was interesting just to see all of their views on educational issues. And the IEA is always nonpartisan. We only look at where people stand on issues that impact kids and teachers and other support professionals. So I'll keep you updated if they decide to endorse. On the NEA level, this is something that I wanted to just encourage everybody in the room to contact their legislators about. So there's been all of this stuff in the news about the tax bill and all of these other things going on in Washington. And one thing that's fallen by the wayside that is crucial and supremely important for a lot of people is the CHIP program, which many of you may know what this is already, but it's the Child Health Insurance Program. It's not a huge amount of money. I think it's like $9 billion or something, or $9 billion altogether, but it covers 250,000 children in the state of Illinois alone, and it's health insurance coverage for kids who are too rich to afford Medicaid, or to qualify for Medicaid, but too poor for actual health insurance. And it was a bipartisan bill that had been supported for years, and it needed to be renewed September 30th, and they let it go and they didn't reauthorize it. So if you could contact your legislators and please encourage them to actually reauthorize the CHIP program. It is literally falling by the wayside because of all the other craziness that's going on in Washington right now, and it's something where a lot of kids will be suffering if it doesn't get reauthorized. So they've had enough funds in Illinois to go through the end of the year, and now people are getting the notification that their kids aren't going to be insured anymore. So that's a big thing. And then finally, on the BEA end, I did want to give you guys sort of heads up and ask, there's an ask involved too, that a lot of the conversations that we've been having in exec board and throughout the schools over the past year or two have really been centered around the needs of students, and in particular, we have been doing great work around social emotional learning, around trauma-informed practices, and we've done things that I think everybody are really proud of. And we've also been working really hard at individualizing learning in the classroom level, and there's been more and more discussion around making sure that all of those things are supported with staffing, not just in the classroom, which is super important because class sizes are crucial. Low class sizes are crucial for the individualization and for all of the good work that we're doing. And it's, to be honest, many of the reasons that a lot of you board members ran for the board in the first place, but also with the impact of a lot of the social emotional stuff we're doing, there is a need for special education teachers, there's a need for social workers and psychologists, and having enough people to do the job. So we would like to just kind of keep it in your minds as we go forward into the spring and staffing decisions are made and budgeting decisions are made, that you really keep that in your minds, because that is probably the single biggest issue that just keeps coming up, like over and over and over again. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. And we do appreciate the fact that you, as a board, consistently care about kids, and you always look at the needs of the kids first, which is something that we also do and share. So we appreciate the work that you do. So yeah, thank you for everything. And February 24th, that's the trivia night. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Chris is our student ambassador representative tonight.
Yes. So, in case any of you have been living under a rock for the past month, we won football. We won state, which was an awesome thing. Yeah. So that was really cool, and we all got to experience it. I mean, we packed the stands if you didn't see, and afterwards we had like a big fall sports assembly to kind of congratulate everybody, which was cool. The principal student advisory team met again and kind of got a better understanding for how we were going to go about Yellow Ribbon Week in January. So I believe it's the 22nd is when it starts, and it's that week of school. And we designed stickers that we're going to be handing out at the lunches, so we'll be out there kind of just giving people some information. We have a couple ideas for like posters that are going to be made. And then we have over 100 Illinois State scholars that were named, which is a huge accomplishment. A lot of the senior class was recognized for that, which is really awesome. I believe that's through your SAT score and your GPA. So they ranked, I believe, in the top 10% of, or roughly 10% of all of Illinois, which is a huge accomplishment. And then lastly, the Operation Warm Toes, which is a program that was started from a student at RMS. So we've been collecting, I believe, socks, brand new socks, at all the schools in the district. And I think that we're still collecting them until Friday, but that's a super cool program that she started. But other than that, you know, it's finals week, so everyone's a little on edge and ready to get out for the holidays. But yeah, other than that, it's the same old thing. You're welcome. Thank you.
Next we have committee updates from board members. So John Gaspar, if you want to start.
The only thing is Hall of Honor deadline is February 1st.
Awesome. We've seen tweets and stories about that.
I am a member of the RAC committee, where we got to go over this really wonderful page-turning document this week. One of the big things, the big takeaway, is we had an independent audit, and the auditor said that the district is, the audit's clean, which is kudos to us, but we're really following best practices, and this is a quote from him: keep doing what you're doing. On the downside, some of the things that are in here aren't the most uplifting of things to look at, so you know, when we're looking at projections and things like that, we kind of have to make a best guess on where things are going to be, and then that's other decisions are tiered down from that. So that's a very challenging thing. I encourage anybody who's looking for a super fun time, come to join us at a RAC meeting. It is incredibly eye-opening, and I was just telling John earlier tonight, I always look for humbling moments, and this is definitely a humbling moment. So if you're looking for that kind of inspiration, come join us.
Wow. Thank you. Tina.
I'm on the PLAC committee, and I don't have anything to report. Sorry. It's okay. Sorry.
Chris.
I'm on the Capital Improvement Committee, and I think that's going to be covered by somebody else later this
Next.
week.
So you're not going to repeat that, thank you.
I'm not going to repeat
We
it.
appreciate that, because hearing it once is important, and hearing it twice is redundant.
Exactly.
Sue.
I have nothing to report in my committees other than what John said about that.
That's really good.
Next month.
Next one, Tina's going to have an amazing report.
Can't wait.
What?
Can't wait for it.
I did unfortunately miss CAC this month, but I read the updates, and we got to tour the Early Childhood Center, which I was really sad to miss because that is one of my favorite places in our district. And I'm really excited because the Early Childhood Center group is going to come and see us. I checked with Brett in June, and they've been doing some really amazing work. So even though I missed it, apparently they had the meeting anyway and did great things. And we see you had something to add?
The board has a facilities committee that we've been talking about putting together, and just prior to this meeting, we did finalize that the committee membership. We put it out for the public to submit a short application, and we'll be emailing out the committee tomorrow or the next day with congratulations, you made it, and also some choices for some dates. So we'll start meeting in January after we pick a date.
I was just going to ask.
There are 9 community members and 10 staff members and 1 board member, even though it is an open meeting of the board. So all of them will be posted for public meetings. We'll post the agenda in advance. Any of you can come. But Kathy will be the one that is just designated to be there every time, but you're all welcome.
Questions? Awesome. Next item on our agenda is public comments, or excuse me, consent agenda, which is our opportunity to streamline our meeting by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packet. Before Mr. Pierce goes through them, are there any items on that agenda that anyone wants removed or clarified? No, then Mr. Pierce, will you take us through the consent agenda?
Absolutely. 5.1 and 5.2 are the approval of the November 21st regular and closed session minutes. 5.3 is the personnel report. 5.4, the monthly payrolls and bills. 5.5, destruction of closed session minutes from May 24th, 2016 and June 21st, 2016. We do want to stop now. It's my understanding the Batavia Arts Council would like to make a presentation with their donation. So if they would like to come up with Dominic, that would be great.
Well, we are the Batavia Arts Council. We're almost and every year we work our butts off raising money so that we can award grants and scholarships to artists and for art projects in our community. Our very first grant that we ever awarded was right in this room, and it was, what, 4 years ago?
I believe so.
For for the arts Batavia Art program. It was for the Pug Mill. It was for $500. So we have come back full circle after many years. That was all the money we had that year, $500, and we gave it to them. This year we gave away $7,000 in total. And 2 of the checks are going to the high school. 1 of the checks is going to the Batavia High School Drama Department for Dominic. The other check is going to the Batavia. Do you want to say what you used the money
Yes,
for? Because he used it already, even though we just
You gave him credit. We used it on Cats, the musical, and we used it for the flight. So the students that flew during the show, we brought a company in from Missouri to fly them. Interesting story about them is they came in from Missouri to rig our flying, teach our students how to fly, and then they went off to do the flying on Broadway for SpongeBob the musical. So the same people who did SpongeBob the musical did Batavia High School Cats.
And we have another check that is for the Batavia High School Band program, and Chris apparently was ill today, so he wasn't here to receive it. So Dom is going to accept that on his behalf as well.
And what will Chris be spending the money on, Dominic?
A special performance that the students are going on.
Right, exactly. So we're just so thrilled to be able to help any arts programs in our community, especially the high school. And the kids are amazing, and Cats was, and I love your check. Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the Batavia Arts Council for coming and sharing all that information with us. It's great to get donations, but it's even better to learn a little bit more about them, so thanks. Chipin also donated $7,200 to support mentoring programs at our Title I buildings. 5.7 is the school calendar for 2018-19. 5.8 is the already mentioned exciting acceptance of the CAFR. And 5.9 is the board member expenses, and we close up with 5.10, which is the approval of the consent agenda.
Questions? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Lowe, second by Blakely. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Beaver.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Mock.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Drum.
Yes. All right, the next item on our agenda is our reports. Dr. Hinsons, I'll turn that over to you.
Sure, we have 4 reports this month. The first 2 are recurring reports. The FOIA requests, we received 3 of them that we replied to the previous month. Treasurer's report, you see there every month as well. Do you have questions about either the FOIA or the treasurer's reports? And again, I know the FOIA reports are a little frustrating sometimes because we don't know why they're asking what they're asking, but that is everyone's right to ask for documents that exist within our organization. And 6.3, the next report is the policy report. It is quite lengthy, so we subscribe to press. It comes in about 4 times a year. And this one we got in early November. We just weren't ready in November to bring all these policy changes. And so these are all press recommendations. I do know that Chris pointed out that in 6050, there's a couple typos, so if anyone else noticed that, we will fix it by the second reading. Not a whole lot of questions about these because they are press-based, but we are prepared to answer questions that you would have about any of them. And I do have to say that the law is changing for workplace harassment, so this is the best that they can come up with now. These are the people that write press for us, but we will be bringing it back again when they make a more refined recommendation based on the way that the law has changed. And so you'll be seeing 520 again. So are there any specific policies that you guys want to talk about right now from that top half where they're all linked? And then the bottom part, so there's policies which are like the rules that we have to follow, and the procedures and the exhibits are the ways that we put those into practice. And so the board doesn't need to necessarily approve the procedures or the exhibits, but you do need to know that they exist. So some of those will be changed, and I linked all of the newer red line versions there for you if you have any questions. If I don't have any questions, then what you'll see is all of those other policies will be brought back in January for your adoption. So you still have time to ask any questions if anything comes to you. I won't bring back the procedures and exhibits because you don't need a vote for those. But at any time, if you have a question, you can certainly let us know. Everyone's favorite topic, besides the CAFR, is policy. So the next topic is the capital projects plan. And that report, I will turn over to Tony.
And Mark Anderson, our Director of Operations, will help me with that. The capital projects plan comes from the Capital Projects Committee. As Chris mentioned, he serves as the board representative on that committee, and it consists of a number of other stakeholders from across the district. And essentially, that group prioritizes identified capital projects. We've been doing this particular way for a number of years. We have been focusing in recent years on high priority safety items and items that are in poor condition. And Mark will give you some of those details, but essentially as it stands right now, the committee has been focusing on fiscal years 19 and 20 with the expectation that the facilities committee will be putting together a kind of a master framework that we'll use to prioritize these projects over the longer term. So our focus really, there's a plan here for the next 4 years, but we really expect that the next 2 will be executed near to what we have presented here, with the remaining 2 up for revision with the input that comes from the facilities committee. Mark, do you want to talk about health, life, safety? Because that's the biggest change that we have for you this year.
So as Tony said, basically in the last committee meeting that we had, capital project committee meeting, we really focused on the next 2 years. And one of them that's kind of that project that doesn't go away, the health, life, safety one, that's pretty much mandated by the state as part of the 10-year health, life, safety. There's some elements of that need to be finished. And we went out to bid last year on that and didn't receive any bids. And I think basically talking to our architects and engineers, it was by the timing of it. We were out a little late for bids, so this year we decided to go out much earlier. That bid was just received last week ago, and had to do some, basically a scope review to make sure the company that put the bid in, the lowest bid, and that bid will be coming to you next month for approval. So I didn't want to throw everything at you right now. So as you can see in your report, that's the top item. It's called HLS work, meaning health, life safety work. That bid came in much lower than anticipated, which is a really good thing, and that freed up more room to do some other projects. That would be the main one that you see in there. The other one, and looking the next 2 years, we were able to kind of just shift things to do it earlier, and some exciting HVAC controls that need to be updated. And when I say exciting, it can be talked into boredom, but they are very important this time of year, really any time of year, to be able to control heat or air in the buildings. The other one that a lot of these we focused really on safety compliance and capital maintenance. Capital maintenance basically means fixing things throughout the building. So you kind of name it, things need to be updated, things get dated. But the one that was able to kind of slide up a little bit is really a capital improvement and looking at the VHS and RMS LRCs. We had talked about that a little bit on the capital projects committee, but it was still out there a little ways, and it was able to kind of, basically when you look at projects and monies come in, it's really, and I know Tony talks about this, really monies just kind of slide to where they fit. And a lot of this is an estimate. It's basically an architect and engineer estimate of what projects will come in, because most of these projects we have to go out to bid. So, like I said before, the health, life, safety came a little bit low. So I'm not going to talk much about fiscal year 2021 and 2022. There's kind of placeholders in there right now because of direction from the facilities committee.
One thing that I would add here too that's important, going back to this health, life, safety work that we had expected, we put out the bid last year, but expected to do in the current fiscal year. Since we didn't receive any bids on that work and it was so late in the fiscal year, we were able to move up and prioritize the lighting project, which we wouldn't have otherwise been able to do if that money had not been available. And what that means is that that project was so large, it was over $1 million, that it was $1.5 million actually, that to execute that project with all the other competing priorities, we probably would have had to finance it. But it's an important project to do because it yields something right around the tune of about $200,000 worth of electrical savings each year. So we were able to do that it was kind of a blessing in disguise in the way that we had to delay our health, life, safety work even though it was required by law that we did it. So the question then becomes...
Not to mention the quality of the lighting too.
The quality of the lighting is dramatically improved, yes. Just an anecdote too, Mark. Rob Schmidt, who's our district facilities manager, he was looking at the electric bills for the middle school for the month of October to November. So kind of the middle of October to the middle of November, they're doing this work, this light work at the middle school. They got the project maybe half installed, maybe 3/4 installed. Comparing that bill to the prior year, we saved $7,000 in that building alone. That's just from new lights. That's how inefficient the old lights are. Yeah.
And it wasn't done yet.
And it wasn't done yet. No, and that's just one school. So that's a huge savings. And so, it was the right thing to do, and it kind of worked out. But the question really is, what do we do with the savings? Now, the capital projects committee recommends that we take that savings and we fold that back into our capital projects budget each year. And that makes sense primarily because those costs are locked into the operations and maintenance fund. Not that that's, you couldn't move those, but it'd be hard to do because it's all part of that fund. Those costs are in that fund, and you could kind of reappropriate some of those, the levy essentially, but it would be more difficult to do because it's in that fund. But that's essentially the board's decision. That's a recommendation of the capital projects committee, but it's a philosophy statement, and that would be a board decision. But that's what we're recommending at this time. And beyond that, then the other recommendation is that we carry forward on our project schedule, this Appendix B here, prioritizing that safety compliance and maintenance work that's in those critical and poor conditions as presented here.
So one thing that I'm not sure I completely understand is the $180,000 savings. When you wrote the budget this year and presented to us, had you estimated those savings in that budget?
No, we didn't know at that time exactly when the project was going to be finished, which incidentally, we believe it's the end of January. Yeah. That's later than what we wanted, so we're only going to see half of that savings in this current fiscal year.
There's one thing I've learned from being on the RAC committee, that number will end up getting absorbed in another column because it wasn't forecasted. It was forecasted. It's not necessarily money in the pocket.
Chris, I don't know if you have any thoughts that you want to share.
I think you guys pretty much nailed it. Next 2 years, and we're just in a holding pattern.
We have votes, or we have to vote
Yep.
on this,
No,
or
votes.
it's just a discussion, right?
It's basically board direction.
What is the time frame on all that public safety? Will it be done this summer?
This summer, yep.
Okay. And it's throughout all the schools, right? Primarily,
It's primarily, as far as the schools will be affected, it's HE Storm and Louise White will be the two major ones. Some things at the high school to get finished up, some things at Rotolo, but the majority of the work will be done in Louise White and Storm.
My only concern I had on this when I saw about putting the so-called extra money back into it, I would have, and Tony explained a little bit here, but I would rather see, if possible, some of it go into our reserves. I mean, we need to build that up, and just for, yes, it might go back into life safety, it might go into something of that later on, but instead of just saying go right to it, I'd rather put it in to help secure the reserves a little bit better. We've talked about that in the past, and I don't know how hard, I don't know how difficult, I don't know what all the situations are on that. That's just my concern on that part. Even if it was half of it to go into reserves, I would be happy with that. It doesn't have to be all of it. So that's just my opinion towards this.
Tony, you talked about how we need to start building that up.
We do. And luckily, we were able to make a little bit of headway last year, and I expect that we'll make some more headway this year, so we are making progress on that. But we also need to appropriate a little bit more money to capital projects at the same time. There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
So they're not really competing goals necessarily, their goals are concurrently trying to reach a little bit at a time.
Each year is a balance of, it's kind of an art form in terms of balancing what comes up, especially those projects that have bigger costs. What's nice about the new way that we're doing things with capital projects is we're trying to get to a consistent budget, a consistent contribution that we would move out of the O&M fund and into capital projects, even though in some years those costs would be less, and then some years those costs will be more, because not every project, not every bunch or kind of set of projects come in the nice $1.7, $1.6 million packages. Some years, some of these projects are going to be $2 million, and some years they're going to be $750,000, and so we'll have to move money between fiscal years to make those things work, to kind of bank it in a way.
But I appreciate the fact that we're looking at both goals and we're not doing one at the complete expense of the other. We're just trying to balance it.
And the other piece of capital projects, we're really trying to get these, kind of move this whole process up sooner and sooner. And last year, I think it came to you in February, March, so we're trying to get ahead of this so we can get out to the contractors earlier and get the best bids possible. And I know we've really tried to concentrate on that, at least it's only a year and a half for me, but in 18 months, we're really trying to do that. And it is only December, so it's almost to our goal.
Our goal is to get it to you in September or October. We're trying to push this report forward. We can't pull that off right now with the way the mechanics of how things happen, but that's our goal long term, is we'll keep moving it forward to the end of the school year, at the beginning of the school year.
It's been a good week so far.
I do have one question, more just for my information. I noticed on there you have like projector refresh in, it's like 2019.
There's two of them.
And there's two of them, so it's kind of, it doesn't look like it's split directly in half, but it's kind of divided it, and how do you
So that one is
determine-
basically, and really speaking for Don Seawald here, but in talking to him, you can't do all of the projectors in one center. It's just actually possible. So they're in the and Tony can help me on this one too, but in the very beginning stages of getting that plan, and meeting with vendors and things like that. So at least to get a kind of a startup in fiscal 19, and the majority of the work being done in fiscal 2020.
Okay, that's kind of what And I thought there was something else that was kind of like that too. It was the playgrounds or something.
Probably way out in 2021,
Yeah.
2022.
And that's just for the, yeah.
Right, that's something that we've also talked to the Capital Projects Committee about, the playgrounds, and actually getting a plan together and, looking out, really 2022 isn't far enough for all the playgrounds we have. I mean, all of them, there's 7 of them, but with the amount of money that they cost for playgrounds, we do need to look out that far. So, and to get a plan together, currently we don't have an actual replacement plan together. So I'm actually working with our architect and engineers to start that process. So again, 2021 and 2022 is kind of an earmark.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is our one action item tonight, which would be the adoption of the 2017 property tax levy. This will be next one.
Yeah, so the property tax levy is the one of the most important actions that the board takes in a year. So if we don't get this levy filed by next Tuesday, we would be in some pretty big trouble because that's the primary source of revenue for the school district. And what's ironic about this is that we start planning for this pretty much a year ago, and we build assumptions, we start planning on what this levy might be. But yet, even now, we still don't know what property values really are and what we're going to generate in terms of property taxes. And so this levy is still an estimate. We have a good estimate, or a good idea of what we think they might be, but it's not finalized yet, which is it's just how we do things in Illinois. But what's important to understand here is that essentially you've built your assumptions in terms of what your revenues are going to be into the budget of the fiscal year that we're currently in. In terms of the levy, it's spread over 2 fiscal years. So this is the 2017 property tax levy. So the first part of this levy is going to hit this spring, and then the second half of this levy would hit the next fiscal year. And so, like I said, if we were not to adopt the levy as is, we'd have to amend our budget, because obviously our revenue assumptions would change significantly relative to whatever decision that we made here. Being a taxpayer in Batavia, I open my tax bill every year, and I always, it's one of those things, it's the privilege of living in Batavia. And people like to complain that, taxes are high in Batavia, and it's true that they are, but the reality is that any of the communities in the collar counties here of Chicago are really in the same boat, and that's just how things work in Illinois. Oftentimes, as a Batavian, I too lament how expensive it is to live in town, but the reality is that that's the way it works in this state, that we primarily fund our schools for property taxes. In fact, Illinois is one of the worst in the country, probably 49th or 50th. It bounces between the two. The last number of years has been 50th in terms of how much money as a state it contributes to funding education. It's not something to be proud of. But we as Batavians step up and make sure that our kids have what it is that they need to have, and the funding that makes sure that they get what they need in this community. And it's something that I've always been proud of personally. But it hurts when you open that tax bill. The good news is that the health of the tax base for the school district and this community is improving after the Great Recession. There were a number of rough years there. We've seen now a few years of EAV increasing, or equalized assessed value. The equalized assessed value of the school district we're projecting to be $1.25 billion. And that's a 4.33% increase over the prior year. So those are not increases that we were used to in years past, but they're definitely welcome after the Great Recession and help us put things in perspective. So the numbers that you see here in this report are assuming that home values increased 4.33%. That's the average that I'm making an assumption that home values increases, but every property is different depending on when they were reassessed, and so you're depending on what happened with your assessment is going to determine what your property taxes are going to do. And I am only obviously showing property taxes for the school district here and not anything else. So there are a lot of other taxing bodies in town here that lay their hands on your tax bill. Although we do have the privilege of being the largest, we're roughly something like 60 to 65% of any Batavian's tax bill. So we're as I like to say, we're the big pig at the trough. That being said, the average, the median home value in Batavia in the school district is let's say it's $275,000. I'm anticipating right now, based off of what I know, that their tax bill for the schools will increase by $108. And that's roughly, depending on the value of the home, it's going to be right around 2% more this year than it was last year. So that's, and as a school district, we'll collect, in all likelihood, about close to 3% more in property tax revenues than we did last year, which equates to about $1.8 million, which is the biggest boost we've seen in revenues from property taxes in a number of years. So it's a healthy boost. It keeps up with what is actually happening in the economy in terms of what our costs are, the costs that we actually see in terms of expenditures. So at this rate, if we continue to see EAVs increase at 4% or better, and we continue to see CPI at about 2%, which is 2.1% for the fiscal year that we're working off of, we'll be in good shape. This is about normal for us, and this is healthy. Anything less than that is not quite as healthy for us. So it's something I'm optimistic about.
It still doesn't afford us much growth. It just keeps our head above water.
Right. So we have to be very diligent about our finances. I'm more optimistic than I was in prior years. We've made some corrections in terms of containing costs, both in terms of personnel and benefits. But benefits is the one thing that I worry about most. It's increasing larger, it's the largest increasing cost as it is with any business, with any person. Healthcare costs are increasing at a rapid rate. And that's the single most, it's the largest financial threat that we face, and we're working very hard with our insurance committee and with the RAC, our Resource Responsibility Advisory Council, to contain those costs as best we can. This, in terms of a levy, this is healthy in terms of for growth as a school district. It's not something I prefer as a taxpayer, but this is about reasonable. This is about average, I would say, and it's healthy for us as a school district. I'm happy to entertain any other questions that you might have.
It helps that we've been talking about this all along, so none of this is a particular surprise.
It'll still be a surprise to a bunch of people.
That's true, but it's not a surprise to any of us in here at the state. So no questions? No.
Seems like we're on the right track.
Then I would entertain a motion to adopt the 2017 property tax levy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Locke, second by Little. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Big Bar.
Yes.
Riker.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Drum.
Yes. All right, that concludes the business portion of our meeting. We do have a closed session item tonight. There is a vote, right? Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought there was because of what it was. All right, so then, prior to going to closed session, any comments from Dr. Kitchen?
I do not have any.
All right, did any board members have any additional comments? I know we did committee updates, but if there was anything else anyone wanted to share before we adjourn the closed session?
Yeah, have a great
Happy holidays.
season.
Happy holidays.
Enjoy Christmas. Wonderful.
Try to spread all the word.
See you next year.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. And we will come back after closed session to take a vote in open session. So I would entertain.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Bach. Caitlin, would you please call the roll?
Big Bar.
Yes.
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Drum. Drummer.
Yes. All right.
Right, you said yes. In an agreeable mood.